Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Raj Cheddam. Welcome to another Crimson Artist YouTube video. And for those who are joining my channel for the first time, I welcome you. And welcome to the 11th video in my ongoing series of Marvel Cinematic Universe movie reviews that started off with the first Iron Man, which was literally the beginning of this year, leading up all the way to Infinity War, which is almost about 2 months now, 2 months from now, kind of, ish, sort of. We have, oh my god, we have 7 more movies, apparently. If my calculations are correct, I'll probably fix it up via post, but much like I did with the first Avengers movie, I decided to bring out an old friend. Actually, he's not very old. He's kind of almost a year older than me, but
this is the voice of God. Give up your evil ways. Join the blue team. Ow!
Yeah, God is here. No, it's not God. It's not even Church from Red vs. Blue. It's Steve Murdoch! Hey, what's up?
Yeah, it's Steve Murdoch. Just your average, random, crazy person usually pops up from time to time because why not?
Yep. And today we're gonna be talking about the sequel, the second Avengers movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe film series, as well as
specimen in regards to the MCU.
Yeah, as well as the 11th film, as I stated. This is the 11th part in my, and it is once again directed by Joss Whedon. It brings back pretty much almost everybody minus, Tom Hiddleston. It brings in newcomers such as Aaron Taylor Johnson and Elizabeth Olsen, a.k.a. Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch.
Which is rather weird, considering in this movie they're brother and sister, but in the 2014 Godzilla movie they were husband and wife.
Yeah.
That's sinking.
I mean, granted, they're both separate universes, but what's really odd, sorry to get off topic, but sort of not really off topic, like the MonsterVerse movies has a bunch of actors that appeared in the MCU. In Godzilla 2014, we had Aaron Taylor Johnson and Elizabeth Olsen. In Kong Skull Island, we had Tom Hiddleston, Brie Larson, John C. Reilly, and Sam Jackson. Dude, come on. Like, who are we going to be getting next? And I don't know what's going to happen in the near future. I hope to keep doing that trend because that is kind of awesome.
Yep.
But we're not here to talk about the MonsterVerse, clearly. That franchise has still have a long way to go, but thankfully that is going actually more smoothly than other attempts at another cinematic goddamn universe.
Pretty much.
Looking at you, DC, and the Dark Universe.
Oh, what a spectacular crash and burn that was.
Technically, it was the second crash and burn.
Dracula Untold?
Yeah, but whatever. Okay, so after the events of the Avengers, Tony Stark, even after the events of Iron Man 3, he has been in constant fear that something far worse is yet to come other than the Chitauri invasion back in 2012. So he has devised a cunning plan to develop a super smart, super AI computer known as Ultron to basically, as he put it, become a huge shield around the world. Unfortunately, that completely backfires, and Ultron essentially becomes, a comedic Skynet of the world, taking over pretty much a lot of electronic devices that belong to the Avengers themselves. And do I really need to explain it? It's basically Terminator without it being a Terminator film and set in the MCU. Okay, so where do I begin here? The cast, as always, is phenomenal. What can I say? Even James Spader, who voices and did the mocap work for Ultron, he did a pretty fantastic job. Everybody's in their A game. I'm not gonna give any faults to the performances. We've seen them since 2008, And we're continuing to see more and be impressed with more performances as years to come. But unfortunately, unlike the first Avengers, where it was a groundbreaking epic, this one kind of falls flat for me in a few places. Like, while I did appreciate Ultron, I just felt that he was a little too comedic, if you know what I mean. I mean, granted, he is built by Tony Stark, and I am aware that in the comics, he's actually built by Hank Pym, which would make Ultron far worse than he already is in the movie version of Ultron, you know? Because Hank Pym, from what I can understand in the comics, is a huge asshole. And those asshole characteristics will obviously go into Ultron, right? But Tony Stark, he's kind of that lovable asshole who makes a bunch of shitty jokes every once in a while.
Well, unless you read the original Civil War comic, in which he's a giant major douchebag, but then again, so is Captain America in that same comic.
Yeah, we have a long way to go to talk about Civil War in general, but that's besides the point. Like, I would have loved to have a much more... I mean, the first trailer, at least, we actually had a much more menacing version of this character. I wonder where the hell what the hell happened to that? I mean, he was just like, oh, allow me to take my time to explain you my evil plan. Like, really? I mean, I like the quote. There's some really well done dialogue. After all, this is a Joss Whedon movie. After all, you would expect to have some pretty good dialogue, but the way the villain was introduced, it has become like Ultron is another example of Marvel's attempt at weak villains, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be the last film to feature such a kind of an underwhelming... No, wait. That title goes to... I'll talk about that later. Next video. But aside from that major flaw, there's other flaws that I do need to address in the room. For example, Thor. He is an integral part of the Avengers, right? Where the hell did he go after, like, you know... Where did he go? Like, I know it was supposed to be a massive tease to Thor Ragnarok, but that has got to be the weakest tease to date. Like, he goes into a pool and lightning strikes here and there, and like, am I supposed to feel suspicious? What should I feel regarding the scene? Some scenes I just did not really buy into.
Not to mention the earlier nightmare scene that he had with like blind Heimdall or something, that doesn't even really come into play in Thor Ragnarok. I know they were trying to tease a little bit, but at this point they just kind of didn't really go that far with it outside of the part where lightning sort of like came out all over his body or something. That was probably the only section from that nightmare scene that actually made it into Thor Ragnarok.
I believe I would have loved it if they actually did release an extended version of this movie, because when I first saw this back in 2015. Oh my god. It's been 3 years.
And that was just starting out Rutgers when it came out.
Yeah.
Actually, the funny thing is, every time an Avengers movie comes out, it's usually around the time I'm finishing up a school. Like, I finished Massachusetts High School when the first Avengers came. I did
Stand up.
I did community college when or at least finished up when Age of Ultron came out, and now I'm finishing up college for Infinity War. Talk about interesting timing.
Yeah, but like, if I were to, like, I remember back when I saw this in 2015, I remember feeling that this film felt a little incomplete in certain areas, especially with Thor. And like I said, he's an integral part of this universe, you know? Why did they just, like, gut a huge portion of that story? And, like, I know I feel like we're ripping on this movie a little too hard. I mean, I like it. It's a good movie. It's not as bad as a lot of people are claiming it to be, but
honestly, I think the movie's rather underrated. I mean, yeah, it's got its flaws, but honestly, it's still a movie I wouldn't mind watching every now and then. And
exactly, yeah.
You know what? I know what you said for Ultron, but I still think he's probably one of my favorite MCU films. Not probably in like the top 5 or okay, I can't really talk right now, or not that high, but I actually still really liked him. I guess maybe he was a bit of an interesting take on it, like the fact that he basically wanted to destroy all mankind simply for looking at the internet is actually kind of rather fitting when you think about it.
It is fitting, but like the consequences that arrive later on, it was just like, do I really want him to destroy the world? I'm not sure. Like I still don't know. Even to this day, I don't know how I feel about Ultron because like at times I really do want to like this character, but other times I'm like, what are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? I mean,
I will say maybe some parts later in the movie felt a little bit too similar to the first Avengers, but regardless, I still usually enjoy watching him. I thought the take from him was pretty good, and just like any scene that he had, even if it was just simply talking to some of the other characters or things like that, I usually just really enjoyed it. But I will still admit I might prefer like the original Ultron a little bit. Or if you want to look at a good version of Ultron, look at the next Avengers, which...
Oh, that is an amazing Ultron. He was barbaric, he was menacing, and he's voiced by Tom Kenny.
Tom Kane.
I mean, Tom Kane. My apologies. He's got that voice. He's got that evil, sadistic voice, and it works well for Ultron.
False. Hope is a human delusion.
You cannot do it. Sorry. But James Spader, he did a pretty good job given the material. But I just want to say I do feel incredibly sorry for Joss Whedon at this point because he wanted to present a pretty awesome sequel. I know he did, but there were from what I've heard, there were a lot of conflicting issues regarding post-production, and he left Twitter and all that. And a lot of feminazis were going absolute apeshit, which I'm not going to cover in this review. I don't want to focus on feminism, political shit. If you want to do that, just...
And even the Honest Trailer guy basically said, guys, I think we broke Joss Whedon.
Yeah, exactly. And since then, he hasn't really been able to come back on top. I mean, he did help out with Justice League, and oh god, I don't even want to talk about that. But like going back to my complaint of like certain scenes and certain story arcs that just seemed out of place, like the Thor Ragnarok buildup was just kind of and then we have I'm just going to touch on this very lightly, and this is probably one of the main reasons why Joss Whedon kind of fell under, and that is the storyline between Hulk and Black Widow. Did we really need this? I mean, I thought it was okay. I didn't find that big of a deal, honestly.
Yeah, neither did I.
But like people just brought up this story arc way out of proportion. It was kind of unnecessary to even necessarily talk about. And like they should have just this felt like this was obviously forced romance, and that is something that I will never buy. Forced romance is not the way to go, even in a comic book movie, no less. I mean, say what you want about an android fucking a miracle woman, a la Vision and Scarlet Witch, but their relationship is actually kind of interesting. Like, they first start off in this film, goes all the way to Civil War, and we see how it builds up in Infinity War. That is kind of interesting. It actually gradually builds up. While Avengers, it was just like, oh, okay, I guess Scarlett Johansson, Black Widow, and Hulk are a thing,
Not to mention, it's kind of weird considering the fact that wasn't Bruce Banner also like in love with Betty Ross, or that?
I don't know what the hell is going on with the Hulk, because for some reason Universal Studios is fucking greedy as hell when it comes to the Hulk. Why don't you just give him back to Marvel? They're obviously making a bank out of this character in movies that he's not really a star in. That's kind of low on you, Universal. God damn it. But I can't control everything, I don't run this franchise. Kevin Feige does. I'm sure he has enough on his plate as it is. But let's touch on the major positives of this movie, which, like I said, the performances are really good. The action is fantastic. Like, in fact, I think this film's action sequences are far superior than the first film. Honestly,
I agree.
It's really well paced, except for a few bits and pieces once in a while.
What about the cabin scene when they were staying at Hawkeye's place for a while?
Oh, that is the best scene in the movie, because in majority of the first film, a lot of people were putting a massive shit on Hawkeye for being brainwashed and being a villain for the first half of the movie, and like he didn't really contribute anything except for the final 30 minutes, of course. People were shitting on this character. Even Jeremy Renner was kind of almost done with the character. But then Joss Whedon tried his best to... Like, he actually fought to have the scene in the movie. And it actually paid off. I think this is one of the best scenes. And not just any comic book movie in general. I think this is one of the best scenes in general. Like, they handled his character. He's a lot more human inside than just a guy that shoots arrows and such. He actually became my favorite character in this movie. This felt like this movie belonged to Hawkeye, really, like more so than the rest of the Avengers, which is kind of odd considering this is called Avengers: Age of Ultron. Ultimately, it's becoming Hawkeye: Age of Ultron, which is kind of fucking weird. It should have been retitled Hawkeye: Age of Ultron with a bunch of other Avengers in it. But that would be too much of a crazy-ass title.
Then again, it's not that far off by calling Captain America Civil War just Avengers Civil War.
Exactly. The special effects, what can I say? It's Marvel. They're always not nailing it when it comes to the special effects.
Like, even Ultron looked really good in a lot of shots.
But this is definitely going to be like one of the first few films, in my opinion, where the color is a little... Muted, yeah. I mean, as much as I adore the effects here, especially on Ultron, during the daylight scenes, I'm like, no. Say what you want about Batman v Superman. As much as I hated that movie, they handled the color. Actually, they handled the color in most DC movies much better than Marvel in this case. Like Wonder Woman, which was super beautiful when we were looking at the mascara, or how about the fight between Batman and Superman? Sure, it was kept in the dark for the most part, but at least when there was a lighted up scene.
What about Guardians of the Galaxy, which came before Age of Ultron? Didn't that have decent colors?
Kinda. Like whenever it's in space and whatnot, or that what do you call it? That skull face planet thing. I forgot the name.
Nowhere?
The Nowhere, yeah, that looked cool, but whenever they're on Terra Nova, which is basically another version of Earth, if you get down to it.
Xandar?
Whatever. No, Xandar, whatever. It's basically another version of Earth. And that's where the color tends to drag. And Captain America actually worked. Like, that was like the first time they went with this color scheme. At least I think it did. And I think it works for a film like that because it's supposed to be super serious and... Well, not super serious, but like in terms of the political tones that they were going for in Winter Soldier, it makes sense because it's called Winter Soldier. Like, he's... You know... They had to present that in a very dark and mysterious light. But with a film like Ultron, where it has a lot of action and crazy effects and a lot of comic book characters, you would expect that the color be elevated a little bit.
Well, what about when they were in Africa a little bit, or at least the big Hulk versus Hulkbuster scene?
Okay, that was cool. That was fucking cool. But, like, for the most part, I said the most part, it tends to vary every once in a while, and it did kind of annoy me a little bit, especially during the final act, where I thought that, like, it could have been handled a lot better. But then again, this is a film that came roughly 3 years ago. Oh my god, I still can't believe that. Yeah. So, what am I missing anything out here?
I think we're pretty good.
Oh, yeah, one more thing. For those who are not aware, thank you, Robert Downey Jr. and Marvel Studios, for this. Apparently,
They're gonna move.
They've moved the release date from May 4th, 2018 to April. A week early. What was it? April 27th. Yeah,
27th.
April 27th, 2018. Just a mere week before it was supposed to come out, meaning that after my Black Panther review, it's Infinity War. That is honestly the most exciting thing that has ever happened. And it's all because of an awesome Twitter thread between Marvel Studios and Robert Downey Jr.
That is one of the greatest Twitter threads I've ever seen. And for once, it's not something negative. It's actually something positive for once. And I also think the reason they did this was so they could have more breathing room between this and Deadpool 2.
Absolutely. But even if Deadpool 2 sucks, which I highly doubt it, but I'm still kind of concerned over that, I would still watch Infinity War no matter how bad or how good it is. I can't wait for Infinity War. Why do you think I'm doing this review series? Oh my god. So I guess in terms of a final verdict for Infinity War... No, not Infinity War.
Wait, you already saw Infinity War?
I haven't seen Infinity War.
Why didn't you tell me?
I didn't see Infinity War. Jesus. Okay. The final verdict for Age of Ultron is a solid B. It's not as bad as a lot of people are saying, but it's not as good as a lot of people are saying. It's kind of in between for me. I clearly prefer the first film in terms of its story and build up the characters and how
the impact that it had,
and how the impact it had. But this film still had some pretty clever moments here. Andy Serkis was a bit of a surprise when I first saw him in the theater. I was like, holy crap! Gollum, Caesar, King Kong is in this movie? That's kind of awesome.
Yep.
And like how that was basically the first tease to Black Panther. No, not really the first. It's technically the second tease to Black Panther.
I think the first one might be Captain America: The First Avenger when
Nope.
they're talking about the whole.
No. What? Fucking Iron Man 2 is the first tease, then Captain America, and then Age of Ultron.
What was Iron Man 2 the first tease again?
At the very end of the movie, after all the shit that went down, Nick Fury is debriefing Tony Stark on his new role as the consultant, right? And in the background, there is the news footage from Culver University, a la Incredible Hulk, the university scene. Mm-hmm. And then there was a world map that pinpointed different locations, one in the Arctic, one in New Mexico, and one in South Africa. That was your first tease to Black Panther. And even, like, actually, if you want to be more specific, the first Iron Man was actually the first tease to Black Panther when they showed the Captain America shield just randomly sitting while Tony was getting the armor off for the first time. So
let's face it, this is not the worst thing you caught me doing.
Exactly. So yeah, so it's definitely, like I said, it's definitely an in-between for me. It's not bad, nor is it good. I think it's a solid B movie in terms of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I still prefer the first film. I wish that they could have added a little more, and I do wish Joss Whedon the best of luck in whatever the hell he attempts to try to do, because I have no idea what the hell is going on with him anymore.
As for my grade, I definitely respect all the stuff that you said, but I think I'm probably still gonna have to go like a B plus or something, or maybe like somewhere between a B plus and an A minus. It's not as good as the first one. It doesn't have the same impact, but I still think it's a very good movie that I will gladly watch any time, especially leading up to Infinity War.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Next week I'll be talking about Ant-Man, and the week after that, oh boy, it's going to be an even crazier ride than Ultron. And probably one of my favorite rides ever in terms of the MCU. See you in a bit. Thank you so much for watching. Hit like, subscribe. Let me know what you thought of Age of Ultron. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Are you in between like I am or not? Let me know. And as always, hit the bell icon to see more and to let you know that, hey, I posted a new video. And I will see you on the next video. Take care.